Really interesting moment. Dr. Sanjay Gupta of CNN, not exactly a fringe voice, coming out and saying that he believes there is credence, as in not dismissible, the idea that COVID-19 leaked out of the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Let's take a listen to what he said.
He is an experienced virologist.
He's an experienced virologist. He was also head of the CDC at the time this was happening, which means that in addition to everything that we know, he had access to raw data and raw intelligence that was coming out of China. My point is that it's a much more informed sort of thing for him to be saying than for anybody who may have expertise in virology, because he has a lot more knowledge and information that he has that maybe he can't share, but is informing his opinion.
I think it's important that Sanjay Gupta is backing up Dr. Redfield on this, because Dr. Redfield took a lot of heat. It was like, oh, he's embracing this Trumpian conspiracy theory, etc. He's the former head of the CDC, okay? And the more that we begin to see a lot of the evidence come out, the WHO, their cover-up, I covered there, about how the only American investigator on the team is the person who funded the Wuhan Institute of Virology, and was like, and it was blatantly asked, so you just believe them? And he goes, yeah, what else are you supposed to do? I don't know. I mean, a lot more investigation?
Yeah, that was wild. You played that out where he's like, we just believed them what they said. We asked tough questions, and then we accepted their answers. Like, that's all. That's what you did. Crazy.
Yeah, no, it's pretty nuts. I do think that the more, and this is always the problem with Trump, right? Like, Trump would dial it up to 12 and be like, it came from China, and then people reflexively would be like, no, it didn't. It becomes a culture war, and the longer he's off the scene, more people who are faced with facts are like, hey, look, like when Sanjay Gupta defends Dr. Redfield, and Dr. Redfield comes out and says this, when the New York Times, when Anthony Blinken, Biden's own Secretary of State, says he doesn't trust the WHO report, I don't think there's any ground for people to stand on who say that it's a quote-unquote dismissed, debunked conspiracy theory like the New York Times. And when the New York Times' own paper is the one which is publishing an open letter from scientists like Jamie Metzl saying, no, this Wuhan Institute of Virology theory is absolutely should be considered, and the WHO investigation is bunk, they just don't have a lot of ground to stand on right now.
Trump made it sound like this was like intentionally unleashed by the Chinese government to destroy us. And obviously, like, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about an accidental leak from the Wuhan lab of virology, which is incredibly plausible and has not been debunked or ruled out, regardless of how many times the mainstream media continues to repeat that line. Nobody knows for sure, but it's insane that you can't ask the question. It's insane that you're not allowed to investigate it. And it's completely insane to just take the WHO report at its word when it's compromised in all the ways that you've made so incredibly plain. Trump gave the people who have an interest in hiding the true origins of what happened here, he gave them the greatest gift they ever could have.
Because now they're like, well, Trump said it's a conspiracy.
Right, because he takes it to that place that is insane and wild. They get to then use that to say, no, if you're a serious person, if you're a decent person, if you're a non-racist person, then we have to accept this other explanation, even though, again, we just haven't seen the proof that it really did come from bats or develop from nature. So I think that's why this story is important. First of all, it's important to know what really happened here so that we can try to prevent it in the future. Second of all, I think it's important to reveal the way that these investigations can be influenced by politics, even when you have the scientific community involved, because they have their own interests at stake here, which is that there's a lot of funding floating around for this type of research like they were doing in the Wuhan lab. They don't want to lose their grants. They don't want to lose their ability to do this research. So they have an interest, too, to point the attention in a different direction.
No, that's what the big problem that we see there is, which is that it's all just, political culture wars around what should be one of the most pressing questions. And as I said here, it's China's fault if they covered this up, and they're obviously never going to admit their complicity. Then NIH was granting money to EcoHealth Alliance, which is an American thing, in order to get the same gain-of-function research data off of this. This would implicate a lot of people, not just the Chinese. And so you actually, if you don't want to blame China, this is the theory, which would make it so that you can blame everybody. So congratulations. All right.
Next week on Rising, got another great week planned for you. All of our favorite friends of the show, David Sirota, Zed Jelani, Brianna Joy Gray, and more.
That's right. Author Jonathan Cohn is going to discuss his new book, The 10-Year War, Obamacare, The Unfinished Crusade for Universal Coverage. You don't want to miss that. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our videos, and we will see you all next week.
Have a good one, guys.